I'm just wondering what you talk about prenatal care and you talk about education, but the disabled adults, young adults, have kind of fallen into a void where they don't have skills. The schools that used to provide those skills are no longer funded to be able to do that. And they've gone into community programs that basically are adult daycare centers. And a lot of the students there, my daughter included, is very high functioning and needs more than adult daycare. Can you tell me what you might have in mind for those people?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry to hear about the challenges you're facing. And again, we want to see a great outcome, because it sounds like your daughter wants to get out and do things. One of the things, and I just announced this, actually this week, I signed an executive directive, and that's only the starting point, but an executive directive to state government, to say we can start being a role model for hiring and having people join us that have disabilities. And so what we want to do is sort of show how we can be a leader at the state, because then we can be a role model to take it out to the private sector and other community groups to be more proactive about saying, how do we create those career paths? How do we create those opportunities for people with disabilities? And I'm proud to say the Lieutenant Governor is actually taking the lead on that. And he's excited to work on this area. He helped lead that commission that came up with the information. We're tying it in both in physical disabilities, but mental health issues. We just did a mental health commission report that came out because we need to improve that whole area. So we're trying to look at the totality of treating people as a person, to say how can we address, if they have challenges or other areas, how can we be more proactive and help them be more successful in terms of training programs, career opportunities, and also educating the public to say, don't be scared. Let's be open and honest about the facts and the issues of disabilities and how these are wonderful people and how we should be embracing them and not sort of pretending that they're not there. And we need to be much more proactive about that. And so again, that executive directive was just the start of that. So thank you.
Is that right? You won't let it go?
See, I think we're used to people from Lansing that once they get a mic, they're
Well, I'm with the Downriver Republican Grassroots Organization, though I can speak up. But one of the disappointments for me in education was that we've embraced Common Core. Now, I wanted to look into it because before I speak, I want to know both sides. And anyone can Google this for yourself, because you're hearing my opinion based on my research. But if you go to your search engine and say, what is Common Core? And in fact, what brings me up to the courage to get up and bring up this issue is that yesterday on NBC World News, they actually were quite complimentary that now our students will learn 5 different ways to add 2 numbers. And so what I'm saying is we're looking for educating our children for the 21st century. But what were we doing during the 20th century? No one talked about education for the 20th century. And they came out of high school. Now we go to a community college for vocational training. I went to Detroit Public High Schools and we could come out with vocational training. And I think we have to look back. Now, one of the things that bothers me about Common Core is that the federal government will only grant money to those states that actually embrace Common Core. And what does it say about the schools of education at the University of Michigan or anywhere else that we can't figure this out for ourselves? We did it in the past. We became one of the greatest industrialized nations in the world with the old method. We've had new math. You can't hold a pencil. You can't come out verbalizing out of the schools. So quite frankly, I can't see where Common Core is the answer when it's written by a nonprofit corporation in Washington, D.C.
Well, I appreciate your question. I'll give you a different perspective, because again, this is where it's important we have a dialogue, because again, I think we have different approaches and perspectives on what are the facts. Common Core actually came from the states. Actually, no, they did. It was done by the governors and the education people in our states. Governor Engler was actually one of the advocates for it. And Common Core was really done originally. This is where it came from. It was done because we're in a global economy now. and that goes back to that comment about how we broke our skilled trade training path, is we all recognized we needed to do more from just high school to give people more tools to be successful. But where we messed up is we just told people to go to college instead of recognizing both paths. But as part of that, we had to recognize what is that higher standard. So the governors did it with the state educators. And they developed a set of standards. What I'll tell you is, it's not curriculum. It says, these are the kind of outcomes you're supposed to get to. It doesn't tell you what you teach or how you teach it. That's left to the local levels. The issue that quite often gets into the political piece, and I appreciate where you're coming from, is the federal government, subsequent to all that, sort of said they're adopting Common Core and they're going to do a bunch of stuff and tell local school boards and states on how to do things. But it didn't start with the states. And so I support Common Core in terms of higher standards. I believe in local flexibility. I don't believe in the federal government telling us how we have to educate all our kids. I mean, I think that has gone too far. And that balancing act. But Common Core in terms of a concept, I think it's been misconstrued and turned too much. And so we shouldn't talk about just Common Core, but don't we all believe that we should have high standards for education? Forget about the word Common Core and just say, don't we need high standards so we can compete globally? And then we want those high standards. And then the question is, leave flexibility to local schools within reason to say how they achieve that in terms of their curriculum. And I'm a supporter of that. I'll give you one strong illustration, going back to this career tech question. This came up, and I'm proud to sign a bill. This was an important bill we just passed this last session. It was about changing the Michigan merit curriculum. We have a requirement in our state that you have to take Algebra 2. And I used to take all kinds of grief to say, we got to get rid of that. Did anyone here really enjoy Algebra 2 a whole lot when you took it? Most of us didn't. Okay, we got a couple engineering types or someone that was into that. And it's, thank God you did. We need a lot of people that really enjoyed Algebra 2. But they said you should get rid of it. And I said no, because I don't believe in dropping the standards that we established. That's not right, because we are in this globally competitive economy. What I believe in is allowing more flexibility to achieve that outcome. And so what we did is we actually changed the merit curriculum to say you could get Algebra 2, but you could do it in a class other than Algebra 2. Because a lot of times, a lot of us had problems with learning about that formula that had X, Y, and Z in it. A lot of us are not good X, Y, and Z folks. But if you teach Algebra 2 in the welding class or the construction class, and you go to someone to say, if you want to be a home builder, if you want to be a contractor, and you want to do the gable on that roof, what angles do you have to nail that stuff together? So it becomes something tangible and real now. You're learning X, Y, and Z, but it's now this angle, that angle, and something, and they learn it. It works. We got all these kids in these career tech ed programs learning Algebra 2. We just don't call it Algebra 2 because it's something practical and real in their lives. So that was a great piece of legislation that I was very pleased to sign into law to say, again, we should drop the whole arguing about Common Core, but let's agree we want high standards, local flexibility, limited federal involvement in the whole process, and then ways to actually achieve it so we meet those high standards and we have people that are ready to compete in an economy in a skilled trade or profession where they can be well compensated because they have extra knowledge and value. So that's what we're trying to do in Michigan. So again, I just want to give you a different perspective. I appreciate your point. I just want to make sure we walk through the history of this.
Great. We have time for one more question.
Okay, I'll bring up the rear here. Governor, thank you very much for being here in the great city of Southgate. Joseph Pescoff, Mayor here in the city of Southgate. Appreciate you bringing your Road to Recovery tour to our community and the downriver area.
You're getting tired of seeing me pretty soon, probably, Mayor. Mayor does a great job, so.
Thank you. You know, you talked a lot about kind of reinventing Michigan for business and bringing in the business, and that is an excellent priority that you've had during the first term, as well as all the other things you've mentioned. One of the things to know, and as I look around the room, there's a lot of municipal leadership here in the room. And what is your vision as it relates to municipal finance reform? I think we have a broken model there too, quite frankly, Governor. And I just wondered how you envision the process of trying to correct, you know, we've had the head, of course, our work under Headley with Proposition A, and it really has done tremendous harm to communities in this downturn. I don't think anybody ever envisioned that happening. And so we've tried to do our best, and most of us have been able to sustain ourselves without having to go to emergency manager, but some have had to go on that track. And my concern is, I think it's not sustainable, the model we're under right now. And I just wondered what your vision is in terms of trying to help the local communities deal with the way municipalities are financed.
Sure, I appreciate the question, Mayor, and I appreciate the work we've done together. This is about partnership, because we're all in this together. When people ask me about other levels of government, whether it be federal government or local government, to be open with you, sometimes you'll find, sometimes people will fight between levels of government. I think that's a waste of time. And I don't believe in blame either, because the way I view it is in terms of we're partners because we represent a common customer, the citizens. So, and our citizens don't want to see us waste time on things, they want results out of us. And to be open, I don't care who gets credit, I just want to see us all give better service to our citizens. In that context, I think you bring up some good points that the model is somewhat challenged. Because again, I inherited a lot of issues that we had to deal with. And we have seen emergency managers come in. We now got them empowered where they work, but my goal is never to have an emergency manager show up. A great illustration of how we wanted to work with local jurisdictions is we did personal property tax reform. That was on the ballot this last August. That was a case where I held people back in Lansing from doing things until we could make sure local government got on board to support it, because it was really a revenue source for local government. And we wanted to do that in partnership to give you a better answer than simply saying any answer. And I think we worked pretty well through that. But I'm happy to have a discussion in the next term, because I want to really do an analysis as a partner to say, how do we get better transparency, accountability, understanding of finances, what works and what doesn't work? And then, hopefully you've seen it. You haven't seen me back away from any problems in our state, have you? You may not always like all the answer you get, but at least we'll engage in them and try to take them on. Because again, my view is sometimes you have to ask for sacrifices when you do this, but we get a better, stronger system by doing that. So I'm happy to help work with communities on that. I just want to do it in a collaborative fashion, though. So we partner on that. Because again, I've already started asking the discussion about better early warning systems on finances for communities, but I'm willing to look as far as we need to look, particularly if local jurisdictions say they want to partner with me.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. I would just like to say to the young lady back here that the 21 communities are working together on a regional branding campaign, and actually Rodney Stokes has been our mentor on this, and so we're delighted. He's been really helpful, and it's a long road, but we're headed down the road, so we appreciate the help of your folks in getting us there. So if anybody's interested in that, talk to me later and we'll get you involved. But again, thanks a million for coming. We just appreciate it. Come down here more often. We love having you.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it. I just close on one note, though, because I think this is important. That we talked about a lot of laws and regulations. And I want to share with you the most important thing that we're doing is not about a law or regulation in this state. It's about how we can work together. When I talked about the lost decade, who was responsible for that? We were. We did it to ourselves, folks. We were so successful, we wasted all that time fighting and blaming one another rather than recognizing the world was changing. We went through some hard times. But over the last 4 years, don't look at the laws, but look at the cases now where we're bringing people together to do bipartisan things, to do things within regions, that recognize it's not Detroit versus Michigan, it's Detroit, Michigan. We need to continue that. That's the single most important thing we do, is recognize that as Michiganders, when we work together, we can do anything. And the cause we're doing it for, there's nothing more important. It's helping us today but it's being done to help our kids, and generations to come. This isn't about politics. This is about the future of our children and their lives. That's what gets me so fired up to do this. I hope it gets you fired up to say, this is about doing things a new, different way. Not about those ugly ads you see on TV. We're better than that. And we need to act like that and show that result because we all care. And when we're taking care of our kids and we're serving that common customer, we get incredible things done. So let's just get it done. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. It's great to see the Downriver group. You guys work good together. Let's get fired up. Let's go do some great things. I want to be pointing you guys as a role model for the rest of the state. So stay fired up and go vote. So thank you very much.